Alrighty. Actually, I got a couple days behind. I got working and forgot about filming anything. So I'm just going to catch up where I'm at. I was going to do steering columns, and I didn't want to take them apart and rebuild them because tilt column, a lot of pieces. So I had a guy, he ghosted me, wouldn't call me back. Found another guy, and so I ended up taking the columns down there. I just dropped them off. And then after talking to him while I was there, I ended up going back and getting them because his restoration was pretty much just to clean it and sell them, whatever. So, not really to my standard, but he was very familiar with the pieces and things. And the problem with that is it'd take me 2 weeks to figure out what went where. So rather than do that, I did look at stuff. He knows where everything goes. And so I basically brought them home, tore them apart. I'll paint them. I wanted them I wanted the tubes sandblasted. I wanted everything cleaned up exceptionally well. And he didn't do that, or wouldn't. Didn't have the facilities to do it. Just a good old boy, making some money, putting things together. But I wanted better. That's all there is to it. So I brought the columns home, tore them apart, and I had to, I could have went and bought new, but it was one wire loose. So I just pulled a pin, resoldered it. I went through, I've cleaned everything. There was no need to buy new switches and things because these were fine. So I've just gone through, sandblasted every little piece, put them in epoxy. Was it overkill? Yeah, it absolutely was overkill, but I'm still waiting on some freaking gas tank pieces, and I just want this stuff out of the way before I continued with the car, because I don't want to mess anything up. So I just need some of that stuff done. The tubes were obviously just rusty as hell. So I sandblasted them, and this color that's on there is that epoxy I use. And since it's the tube, it'll be good enough, to hide back in there. These things go down on the inside of these, and they're normally just metal, but they're rusty as heck. So I just put I thinned it out with acetone, thinned the epoxy down, and then just put a real light coat on there because I was bored and didn't have anything else to do. So I've got two of them here. I'm actually going to build them both, and I did these pieces. Now that's still the epoxy, but since these show, I'm going to sand those and actually use some Sim trim black. These hubs get a texture to them. So I've got some crinkle paint. I'm going to see how that works. But the reason I went ahead and epoxied is because it sticks to everything, and then everything sticks to it pretty good. So I'll do that. Right now, I just finished. Didn't have to do it, but I went in, took every little piece, just degreased everything because it had 50-year-old hard, chunky grease in it. And those were the things that I wanted built better. So toothbrush, I've been out here 4 hours. Toothbrush, lacquer thinner, cleaning all the old grease out, re-greased everything. There was nothing wrong with my bearings. Those were good, except one of them was missing in one column. So it was totally gone. Don't know where it went. But the guy's got extra parts and pieces. And the only other little thing I ran into was the reverse switch for the lights. Let me just show you this real quick. So that was one of them. This one's the other. Now these were on 2 tilt columns. The one that was in the car was not the original column anyway. Because it actually, once I started sanding, it was brown. And the interior of this car was black. So somebody just swapped that out for whatever reason. And then on the switches, I wasn't sure which was which. So you can see the difference. And what I'm thinking is, this one being here, if it's hooked to the reverse lockout and you move to park, that's going past the switch. You're actually moving this. And so when you go into reverse, backup lights come on, and then drive, whatever, it goes down that way. This one, I think, is right for the manual, because when it's hooked to the reverse lockout, which is hooked to the reverse lever on the transmission, the 4-speed, I think it's just going to push it all the way to the right. So I had to dig around. I actually got a little help from a guy online. He's got a 4-speed car, and I mean, I searched everywhere trying to find one. Nothing wrong with mine, I don't think, but I just couldn't find one to see which was which. But he's going to text me that in a minute, and I think this one will be fine just to stick in there and work the way it is. So right now, all I'm doing is I cleaned all these out. These are the pieces, obviously you can see, for the key. So, and they were just rough, so I sanded out. I mean, really with some, I think I had 280, 120, 280. I sanded out some gouges and things. And now I'm just going to wet sand them down with 400. I'll paint the plastics in the bowl. And I'm going to use this nicer trim black here. I really like the way that stuff looks. And then for my crinkle finish, I've used this before. Sometimes it gets too much. You really just spray it on, then you come back and spray it again, and then it'll wrinkle. I've done that before, and it wrinkles too much because it's a real light crinkle wrinkle on those hubs. But if you'll let that do that and then just sand it slightly, it'll take out a lot of that very coarse wrinkle, and then I'll spray black paint over it. And then that whole top part of the column matches well. The tubes and stuff, you know, they can be that epoxy black. It doesn't matter. I mean, when you look at them out here, they look nice and black, but that's nothing compared to how black paint is. It's just totally different. Oh, another thing I did, these little seals that come on the bottom of the steering column that go, this goes down by your, you know, the floor now. I actually went online because they were wanting $29 for one of those little seals and $14 shipping. And that's crap. So I went online, Amazon. I found adhesive foam stuff, $9. I got a 12-inch by 48-inch. I could do 10 of these things, and then I'll just take that as a pattern and cut it out. Because there's no way, I mean, it's not metal, there's nothing in it. It's just freaking foam seal. So that's the stuff we deal with. That's all that I found it was 2 tilt columns, a few little different things. And I wish I could have found somebody that would just rebuild all of it, but I couldn't. So I'll do the top end. I started pulling it apart, and then once I got down to the knuckle and realized some of my bearings were bad, to totally tear this whole thing apart. This is not bad. It's what's in here, which it has all the little bearings and the little springs and all that. It would have taken me a week to sit there with the manual and figure out what went where, because you can obviously screw it up and put some in backwards. And at this point, the guy ain't going to charge me much anyway, so I'll just go ahead and do that. Let him put them back together for me. But I'm basically gonna do all the work. I'm gonna paint them. I've already cleaned everything. It was just having somebody there with the knowledge. Again, if I can build a car, I can do this, but I didn't want to take. I've never torn one apart, just like I've never torn an automatic transmission apart. And I have no desire to. So there's a few things like that. I'll let somebody help me out a little bit and we'll do. But the paint, you know, he was just gonna, I've seen some of the stuff he did, and it was just blasting it on with a paint can, no adhesive, promoter, nothing. I just want to take a little more care and do it what I consider to be a little more correct. You know, I mean, they're putting them in cars that just drive every day, not show quality stuff like I'm trying to build here. So a little bit more work on that. And I mean, I've done nothing else. I've been on to JEGS. They've had me with parts back ordered for the past 3 months, and they keep pushing it. Finally, they're like, oh, it will absolutely ship on the 22nd. And that's that gas line, some of that gas line stuff. I mean, I should have just bent my frickin' own, but this one was a complicated little bend, the vent that goes in the rear gas tank. It ain't that hard, but when I do it, I could just order one. Thing is, like I said, Right Stuff is an hour from me. I could have went there, but they don't deal with anybody that's not a dealer anymore. So again, just a pain in the ass. But that's really all that I got done. Nothing's changed on the car, still covered up. Yeah, I think it's all I did. So I'm going to get back to that. I got nothing else going on except sanding plastic pieces, and I'll paint those. So we will talk to you later. Bye. Okay, looks like I got all the pieces painted. Had to work with a little bit. Kind of had some oil fisheye issues, but just dry spray it and get that up. The hubs turned out nice. I can just show you what we got here. These turned out pretty decent. I'll show you what paint and stuff I used on them here in a second. But that'll be that's the finished coat. And the texture on these, kind of hard to see there. See if I can get the focus. The texture came out pretty decent. Here we go. So the texture, what that ends up being, I'd found this stuff years ago and used it. It was just a wrinkle finish by Krylon. Spray it on, give it 5 minutes, spray a heavy coat on. Somehow it reacts and creates a wrinkle finish. I played with it a little bit. That one actually came out good. I've done them before and had to sand them because it wrinkled too much. But that came out great. I then sprayed it with the Sim Ultra Black, because it just gives me a little better finish. And then I finished up with 1 or 2 coats of the Low Luster Clear. And that makes this difference, if I can show you. So without the Low Luster Clear, it's a little too shiny. That was just the black. And to be inside, I didn't want that kind of reflection coming off the steering column and stuff. So I put the Low Luster Clear on. It seems to just come out a little better, especially on when I've done the interior pieces. It just comes out better. It's just a nicer look. But I'll see if I can get another picture there. I guess that's focused good. Just looks out of focus. But not a bad finish. We come out with spray can. I'll let it sit here in the heat. Probably a good day so we don't scratch anything. And then I'll take all the pieces down and we'll put everything together. I think we'll at least have the steering column problem straightened out. And then we can move on to something else. Not sure exactly what yet, but we'll figure that out. So that's it. Steering column's about ready to go back together. Well, looky there, a freaking steering column. So the guy was going to take the stuff too. Never called me back. Wouldn't call me last night. Didn't call me this morning. I was supposed to come down. I'm not going to make a 3-hour trip there and back, not knowing if he's even there. Whatever. Screw it. I'll do it myself. Took me a little minute. I had to sit down, go through the book, because I did not take all the stuff apart. And that sucks because you don't know where it goes. But took about 2 hours, maybe 3 hours this morning. Figured it out. A lot of little pieces that can go different ways. But I'm just tired of waiting on people. That's the second guy I couldn't get to do anything. So I did it myself. Anyway, here's the finished product. Everything went together. Well, I won't say it went together good. I got it almost together and then had to take it apart because I forgot something. But such as it is. Did end up getting, I found this was the correct switch for a manual. So we got that put on there. But overall, she looks good, works good, at least for now. And I didn't have any issues with really anything. The hardest part was getting the insides of this lined up to catch the key and catch the tilt mechanism. That took a minute. So at this point, I got the other one. I'm just going to run back down, pick up I need bearings. I need a few pieces. I'll pick those up and then we'll just put this one together and I'll have a second one. So that's that. Just wanted to stitch this in. Oh, I did make the replacement rubber piece for down here. And I just got some foam off, adhesive foam off of Amazon and stuck it on there. I'm just basically tired of waiting. So much for, if you want something done right, do it yourself, I guess. It's one of the I knew I was going to do this a week ago. When I started looking, I was like, I'm going to end up building this shit myself. So anyway, now I've got a whole box of parts and pieces we got to figure out. And one thing that was confusing me, every time I looked for a kit, it said bearings for the bottom of the steering shaft. But in this particular one for the Firebird, I mean, even if I go to look on eBay, it says for Firebird Camaro and it's got bearings. Well, apparently they don't. I guess it just rides inside there on the shaft because there's no room for any metal bearing or anything. Must just be like a little bushing. That's it. I just need a few pieces of springs and things, and I'm just going to put this other one together and probably sell it. I was wanting them done at the same time. I'd pick the better of the two, but this one turned out really nice, so I think I'm good with it. We'll just put the other one together, and then I'll get back on the car. Basically waste a week trying to get this done. But I'll put this stuff back on the car, and then these mounts are ready to go, and we'll go from there.